Good day and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. I wanted to do a midday update on the ongoing battles and engagements that are taking place south of Weldia and north of Dese inside of the Amhara region and the former state of Ethiopia. So we are hearing reports that we are seeing a movement of Tigray Defense Forces from the Afar region back into the Tigray region and into the vicinity of the Weldia area of operations. Now, the reason that we're seeing this, well, I would say the highly likely reason we're seeing this is because of the military buildup of the Amhara paramilitaries, the Amhara army that is now forming, that is utilizing, in some cases, some people see it as universal conscription, uh, in the vicinity of Dese. So again, we're seeing a very large buildup of forces that was utilized to prevent the Tigrayan Defense Forces, the lead elements of the TDF, from seizing control of Dese, of moving into the Dese Kombolcha gap, as I like to call it. The forces that are inside, meaning the Ethiopian army, the Amhara militia units that are in the vicinity of Dese are significant. Very large group of manpower, uh, and in some cases female power, that have been deployed in the vicinity of Dese and Kolbonsha to prevent the Tigrayan Defense Forces from proceeding south. So, what is the purpose of the movement of these forces from the Afar region into these other areas? Well, that is simply to possibly stop any form of counterattack by the Ethiopian army and the paramilitary Amhara allies that are also grouped with the Ethiopian armed forces military in the vicinity of Dese. So again, very common occurrence in the nature of warfare. I would say that the operations that we have seen thus far inside of the Afar region by the Tigrayan Defense Forces have been mostly successful. Remember, we were seeing the pursuit of the Ethiopian army as it fled from Mekelle and headed east. We saw obviously the Tigrayan Defense Forces chase down some of those units and conduct operations against those fleeing units, and were able to capture and destroy several columns of the Ethiopian army and its Amhara militia allies. We also saw a buildup of regional forces that also occurred in the Afar region, regional forces that were being deployed by the Ethiopian state, possibly to threaten the Tigray region. And we saw indeed that the TDF responded and moved forces to counter that threat inside of the Afar region. That threat has been removed and is no longer a major threat as we speak. Right now, the biggest threat in terms of ongoing operations for the Tigrayan Defense Forces is the very large mass of troops that have been assembled in the Dese area, in the Dese area of operations. And I fully understand that I had stated in previous videos that we were looking at a TDF advance on Dese and a possible capture of Dese. Now, obviously, in terms of analyzing modern, or I won't say modern, but battlefield operations that are occurring in this area, just as with any military operation, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. And indeed, obviously the Ethiopian army, the remnants of the Ethiopian army and its Amhara allies are continuing to fight, continuing to try and prevent the Tigrayan Defense Forces from continuing to advance south. And obviously, a defeat near Dese, and the capture of Dese and the capture of Kombolcha would have been really a political disaster for both the leadership in the Amhara region and the leadership in Addis Ababa in terms of Abiy Ahmed and the Prosperity Party. So a lot of resources and a lot of assets were moved into that area to prevent the rapid collapse and takeover of the forces that were defending Dese and Kombolcha. And that's kind of where we sit right now. We continue to see fairly significant battles taking place north of Dese and obviously south of Weldia. And again, the front lines are not continuous front lines. We are seeing cases where forces on both sides are able to penetrate into the opponent's rear in some cases for a period of time, and it is a back and forth operation. And these battles in this very large civil war are continuing as we speak, and ultimately, the future will only really tell what is going to happen once we finally get to that point. But we can tell you that we are continuing to see operations in what I would define as the southwestern area of operations. We continue to hear about a fairly sizable contingent of the Tigrayan Defense Forces continuing to press south in the vicinity of Debark and Dabat, and that is ongoing. But significant forces, both of the TDF in the southwestern area of operations and the southeastern area of operations, as the fighting continues. And again, we will learn more. Again, we are trying to make heads and tails of what occurred in Afar and why we are seeing a movement of TDF forces from the Afar region into other areas. And again, these forces were not engaged in heavy combat. It was simply a movement of forces from the east back towards the west, quite possibly looking at the issue that is going on in and around Dese, and a very large contingent of Ethiopian army, both mechanized and mechanized elements inside of Dese, and huge amounts of Amhara regional forces that have been inducted into that armed body as we speak. So we will continue to monitor the situation, but that is the information I have at this time. Have a great day, everybody.